Hey designers, Derek from The Handoff, and today I'll be starting a new series and trying something new called Design Books in 7 Minutes. In each of these short videos, I'll be trying my best to summarize some of the best books I've read in the fields of UI, UX, and product design. Keep up to date with more of these videos as I release them by dropping a like and clicking that subscribe button. So let's get into it. Thinking Fast and Slow was published back in 2011 by author Daniel Kahneman, and it has been featured on the New York Times bestseller list. Although it isn't considered a design book by any means, it's still a very popular book that's a useful read for any designer that wants to learn about the psychology behind what they're designing. From a high level, Thinking Fast and Slow analyzes two systems that stem from the dual process theory found in the field of psychology that impacts our ability to make decisions. These two systems are the fast and the slow. Each one of these systems refers to each one of the two ways our brains form thoughts and judgments on what we see and how we interact with them in our environments. System 1, as it's named, stems from evolutionary traits and was actually a survival instinct that helped alert humans to danger when there was a threat in our environment. It's usually pretty automatic and instantaneous. So for example, when you see this written on a whiteboard, 1 plus 1, your brain automatically jumps to want to complete that answer. Some other examples here include an instant sense of fear when you see a cop car turning on their lights behind you on the highway, or a sense of interest when you hear a potato chip bag opening in the other room. Some of the notable characteristics of System 1 include low effort, meaning that the brain doesn't require much energy to make these thoughts. It's mostly automatic and spontaneous, which means it's voluntarily hard to suppress a lot of these thoughts as well. An example here is stereotyping someone based on the color of their skin or their age. In addition, System 1 is mainly emotional, or what Kahneman calls your gut feeling. This is sometimes referred to as intuition, where you can occasionally make sound decisions because you've already encountered a scenario like this in the past. If you want to learn more about making decisions based on intuition, I recommend a book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, which I'll link to in the description box down below. Know that sometimes these decisions can be affected by heuristics or biases. If you're not familiar with those terms, here's what they mean. A heuristic is a technique or mental shortcut that's centered around previous experience that you can use to solve problems or learn new things. Instead of having to think through the same problem each and every time you encounter it, it's like a rule of thumb or educated guess that you can lean on to save yourself some time or mental processing power. A good example here is if you're going shopping for a new laptop and you see two brands. One is from a company you've seen on Instagram that everyone's raving about, and the other one is some random brand that you've never heard of. Which one would you be more inclined to choose? Of course, the brand you already know. This is because you're leaning on the social proof heuristic, where you're confirming that an idea is correct based on knowing that more people have perceived that same idea to be right as well. This is the same reason why you might be more inclined to buy something online if it has 5-star reviews. However, heuristics can also result in biases, which are preconceived notions or disproportionately weighed criteria during decision making that can result in inaccurate judgments. So here are 3 examples of biases. The first one is anchoring bias. This is really useful when you're offering any type of discount to your users where you might rely too heavily on the first piece of information that's given to you. The second example is negativity bias. So this is what a lot of salespeople use when they're trying to sell you a product. Instead of telling you about all the benefits, they bring up something you struggle with, as those negative emotions tend to be better remembered than a positive one. Thirdly, we have this thing called confirmation bias. As a designer, you'll always be drawn to your first designs. In fact, as you do more research, you'll particularly seek out takeaways from these interviews and surveys that confirm your original suspicion or design. As a designer, you'll need to learn how to detach yourself from this work so that you know exactly what you're doing that's best for the business and the user. I've dropped a really great article down in the description box below by Mobile Spoon that lists 81 more cognitive biases that you can be aware of to design better products. So we've covered System 1. What about System 2? System 2 is more conscious and explicit, which means that you're taking on more of a slower, more controlled effort to make decisions. This typically requires more brain power and is also called the logical or rational part of decision making. Examples here include solving a physics problem, trying to recall your friend's cell phone number without checking your contacts list, or trying to make sure that you're formulating the right words when you're talking to someone during a job interview. In the field of design, an example is if you were designing an onboarding experience. You want to make sure that all of the information is there. You don't want to have someone rely on something they saw in an earlier screen. And because working memory is limited, you want to make sure the experience is as easy as possible. Steve Krug has a really great book on this particular topic of simplifying the user experience and interface called Don't Make Me Think. I'll link to that in the description box below if you're interested. Essentially, as a designer, you should be trying your best to design apps, websites, and products such that whoever's using your app doesn't need to think so hard if the action they're performing is simple. You want information to be displayed clearly and concisely. In addition, you want to make sure that your designs don't exploit these biases that people have. There's a time and place for leaning on heuristics to nudge a user in the right direction, but you want to make sure that you're not tricking or misleading those that you're designing for. So with that, this wraps up the first design book review of many that's to come. If you want to support the author and read the full book, check out the links in the description box below. In addition, subscribe to my channel for more videos on UI, UX, and product design. I'll see you in the next video.